Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 9 of the Corcoran Cap. I'm almost running out of fingers to count how many episodes we've had, but this is the podcast about the Warriors, A's, Syracuse. We're talking about March Madness today. We'll get to that. And the 49ers. I'm your host, Sam Corcoran. Bit of a different location just for this segment. My roommate's in the room doing some work, so thought I'd give him some space. But we're here to talk about the Warriors. Joel, obviously on my right, and it's been a rough week for the Warriors, to say the least, Joel.
It has. We're 1-6 on our last 7. We've lost 3 straight. Some games we should have won or could have won in the mix. It's a very tough stretch, and obviously whenever Steph doesn't play, it's just there's a lack of joy that's associated with this team, and you're kind of feeling it.
Exactly. So obviously the Warriors went on a 5-game road trip to the Southern United States. They lost to the Magic, beat Miami. Miami's a good win. They lost to the Hawks. They lost to the Wizards, and they lost to the Grizzlies. I think we should start off with talk about the Miami game because I mean that's the one win, and that's obviously the highlight of the week. I mean, you had Jordan Poole with 30 points, Damian Lee. I know we talked about before the episode how he kind of sucked, but 22 points.
I've got takes for this game. We had 4 players score 20 plus coming into this game.
Yeah, I know.
Guys that were low.
Very
good. He got hot. He made some ridiculous heat checky banked in threes, which, you know, they're points. And when you're down bodies, you need points. So we welcomed them kindly. Kuminga played great, but fouled out with like 5 minutes left in the game. It was utter BS that they fouled.
Oh, that was awful.
I think he finished the game with 22 points, and he was on pace to score basically 30. He was
going to score 30.
Up.
He only played 30 minutes, 22 points.
He was carving Miami up. And then Lee Valiant started the game off shooting cold, but kept us in it with he had a lot of good cuts. He was finishing in the paint, like, you know, within the painted area. So, the painted area, like 10 feet, like push shots. He likes those little, like, kind of mid-range stuttery jump shots. He's good at those. And then we also got 20 from another guy I talked about prior to this who's been painfully inconsistent in some games. Andrew Wiggins. He closed us out late. I think he had like 6. He had a 3-point play and a 3 down the stretch of the game, which completely put it out of reach. It was really cool. It was good stuff. And also, let me pull up let's see in the box score. Any other standouts for Miami game? Wiggins good, Poole good. Gary Payton II's back. That's another note. He is back.
Yes.
And his presence has been good. He's, ball pressure. He gets steals. He finishes inside. He's
good
just a very
defensive
valuable player. Bielitsa, minor, but he's been playing slightly better. He's been – because Draymond being back and in the mix helps him because it's just less responsibility on him to have all the
responsibility. And Draymond did not play against Miami for what it's worth, too.
No, true. We had limited guys. We only played 10 guys, and Chioza only played 9 minutes, and JTA only played 2 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah, it was overall a very good game, in my opinion. I think the one highlight from this game has to be, Jonathan Kuminga, Jordan Poole, just the young core. And you've been seeing this trend a lot lately with Steph Curry being out. The young core has been taking over for this. And it's just so enjoyable to see. And I love all of it. I want to embrace all of that. It's so fun to see these young guys taking over. And overall, this is a very strong Miami side. I believe now they are, second in the East, I think? I think Boston probably passed them.
It's so close for number 1 in the East.
Oh, they're first still. It's so close. It's Heat 1. Philadelphia is a game behind. Philadelphia, Milwaukee, and Boston are all a game behind.
You talking about the success of the young guys. Kuminga, we mentioned. Kuminga's had a little bit of down. He's been a little up and down as of late. He's still, he does good stuff every game. He makes 1 or 2 plays every game that really catch your attention. But he's been getting into foul trouble. He's had tough moments on defense. Guys are leaving him wide open, and he's not really cashing in on threes that he gets. Still, not going to complain too hard. Poole, on the other hand, has had 14 games straight of 20 or more points, which is really, really good.
Yeah, no, that's really good for him.
Over these last 14 games, he's 25.5 points a game. He's shooting almost 50, 45, 90 on splits with 5 assists and 2.5 turnovers. That's 2 to 1 assist to turnover. I like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's been playing very well as of late.
He absolutely has, and it's just so fun. We haven't really had many young guys that I've been excited about in a while. Now you have Jordan Poole, you have Jonathan Kuminga, You got even a guy like Gary Payne II. Could consider a young guy even. I mean, there's so many.
Guess
Moses
how?
Moody too. Moody on last night had 18 too, and we'll talk about the
Uh,
losses more. But the young guys have really been
yeah.
just shining.
See, last night was a tough one to evaluate. I kind of just flickered in it. I mean, it was one of those games where it was at one point like they went up 20, and that's how the rest of the game was. So I was watching the game, I was paying attention,
Yeah,
and
of course.
checking. You obviously Moody had a good game, and Poole. Some guys had volume nights. Wiggins scored 10 points on 15 shots. That's not great. Poole started off cold, but shot himself into a better game. Kuminga, rough night, kind of shooting, but still got to 15. 7 of 10 on free throws. I like that.
That's a really good thing.
Uh,
Sign. Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
I want to interrupt there. What do you think like went wrong for the Warriors? I mean, I have some thoughts on it, obviously, but what do you think went wrong for the Warriors, not only in the Memphis game, but just like the other games in general?
Well, the big outline for me, I mean, the Memphis game was a rock fight early. That's why it was close.
Mm-hmm.
Neither team was shooting well, and we were both playing good defense. The shooting this road trip in general has been really bad. These last 3 games, the Warriors are 30% on threes. That's not good enough, and we're shooting a lot of threes. We were 14 for 41, 8 for 33, and 9 for 29. Those were our last 3 games shooting threes, and not good. So those aren't, especially Atlanta. They were on fire when they shot. Wizards made a lot of threes. We gave Corey Kispert a career high. I think he had like 6 threes against us. So we weren't, hitting threes on a pace with them. The announcers were pointing out it too. It's like, look, the Warriors are keeping
Corey
up.
Kispert. Wait, Corey Kispert's on Washington, not Atlanta. I just want to clarify that.
Did I say Atlanta? I meant Washington.
You said Atlanta. Yeah.
Okay. Atlanta was the game where all their shooters were on. Washington, they had some guys making threes like KCP, but Kispert in particular for Washington. To clear it up, yeah, he
had 25 to finish the game, I believe.
He had 25, and he was 6 of 9 on threes. Yeah, 6 threes. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Overall, I mean, I definitely think it definitely has a little bit with the other teams. Like they're shooting, they played really well while shooting. I also think, I mean, the lack of Curry was definitely felt this week. And you go into a big road trip without your star player. I know Draymond missed some time. Draymond played absolutely atrocious against Washington too. That was never good to see.
Draymond not very good in the Washington game. Draymond. He was good in the first Washington game he came back against, which was about 2 weeks ago. Then the Boston game, he did. Did he play in the Boston game? He did.
He did. He came back against the Washington game. Yeah.
Quiet in the Boston game. San Antonio game, he played. I remember that he played. It's just, he's just been a little bit less dynamic, I feel like, in the last couple of games. Just, not – he's been good. He's been fine. I mean, but the Washington game, the last Washington game, like you said, was not good. And then he's rested some games. And then, but like the Orlando game, I remember he was.
I want to talk about the Orlando game for a sec too, because it's like you see the strength in numbers thing that we've had going on for a while, and then you look at this Orlando game. Draymond Green with 2, Kevon Looney with 5, Damian Lee with none, Bielitsa with 1, Peyton Moody Chioza all with no points. You had Jordan Poole 26, and then you had a few other double-digit scores, but like you got to have that depth. You look at the Magic stat sheet, and like that's a team that does not win games usually. You have
the Magic are 20 and 50. The Magic are 20 and 53. They're not a good team.
You have 19, 18, 14 from Wendell Carter, Franz Wagner, and Cole Anthony, and then nothing else basically.
Yeah, well, here's the thing: 4 of their 5 guys off the bench had 7 or more. That's something. Off the bench, we played a bunch of guys, a small amount of minutes. We got nothing. We got in 14 minutes from Bielitsa and 15 minutes from Lee. We got 1 point. They got Chuma. They got 8 minutes, 8 points from Okiki, 8 from Harris, 8 from Fultz, 7 from the other Wagner, and we are getting nothing except for Kuminga and Poole, who, if you're going to highlight the 5 guys who had the most impact, it would be Wiggins, Poole, and Clay, all of whom who had volume nights while also putting up some points, and then Porter and Kuminga. That's a game, like you said, where Lee needs to score 12 points, even though I don't love Lee. Or, Moody needs to hit a couple shots. Or Bielitsa gets in and, scores 8 to 10 points. that's just you need one or two other guys to chip in. And it was very unfortunate.
Yeah, you gotta give those guys a chip in. Before we continue with the Warriors, I want to bring up some breaking news that could affect the Western Conference playoffs. Per Shams Charania, Los Angeles Clippers star Paul George will return tonight against Utah after a UCL tear.
All right, can I get a little? Can I get a little hot takey for a half sack?
Yeah, let's hear this hot take, Joel. I want to hear this. I love some hot takes. Give me some hot takes.
There's some hot takes. As we know, the NBA standings in the play-in range for the Western Conference, it's pretty desolate. You've got the Pelicans, the Lakers, the Clippers in there. They're 3 of the 4 teams. Not a lot to be fired up about. All of them are teams, but I'm discounting the Timberwolves because there's a clear difference. The Timberwolves have a 56% winning percentage. They're the 7th seed. Clippers have a 48%, and they're below. There's just a drop in talent. The Lakers are 42%. Pelicans are almost 43%. They're just not very great teams. We've been very quiet. The Clippers have been off the radar in terms of Kawhi news. And we now know that Paul George, who we expect to just be done with the year because, not a very inspiring record. And I mean, it was a UCL. It was in his elbow, right? Was what he tore?
Yeah, elbow.
I mean, that's an injury I just know for like baseball. I mean, obviously you use your elbow differently as a baseball player, but that's an injury where it's like you're out for a year or something with those kind of injuries. Like elbow injuries in general for sports, it's like the functionality of your arms you need as a basketball player, you just assume if it's a legit tear in your elbow, that's a serious injury. So I had almost written Paul George out for the rest of the year. Especially where it's like, look, if they're in the play-in tournament, he's not going to want to say, and if there's no Kawhi, he's going to be, F this. I'm not coming back to play with a partially injured elbow if, I'm here by myself, which I kind of get.
Exactly.
But since Kawhi's been so radio silent and Kawhi's so weird and we don't know about Kawhi could be coming back soon. It fits along the timetable. He injured his knee in the bubble. Remember that? No, it wasn't in the bubble. He injured his knee.
No, it was not. No. That was far.
It was not in the bubble. He injured his knee last year's in the playoffs, but like
it was a torn ACL, right? Or it was a sprained ACL.
It was a part. It wasn't a full tear. It was like a partially torn ACL, which we don't know how that differs from the way that some of their guys have torn theirs. Look, this could all be nothing, and it could just be we've heard nothing from Kawhi because he's weird, and we don't hear anything from Kawhi. I'm just saying, don't be like 100% shocked if the Clippers show up, after the play-in tournament or close to round one with like, hey, we've got Kawhi and Paul George back. Because then that would just cause the Grizzlies and the Suns, the teams that would have to maybe play them, like, wait, what? We're in round. We've worked our asses off.
That's going to be crazy. A little rematch between Phoenix and Phoenix would be a good idea.
Chris Paul back at it with Morris's and it's the best.
Exactly. That would be insane.
No Beverly though, which is tough. Even though I hate Beverly, I would love to see Beverly in that series.
Exactly. I also do want to bring up one quick thing really quickly. Tomorrow, the Warriors play. Who do they play? The Suns tomorrow.
We play Phoenix. We play Phoenix tomorrow.
We play Phoenix. If we win and Minnesota loses, then we are in for the play-in game. We have clinched a normal playoff spot. My bad.
Okay, I was going to say. So if we win tomorrow and Minnesota loses, who does Minnesota play tomorrow?
They're at Toronto.
That's not an easy game. Here's the deal.
After that, they have Denver on. They have Toronto and Denver on back-to-back. Both are on the road.
Denver?
In Denver.
That's okay.
That's a clip. That's a clip right there. Joel just
Timberwolves. Okay, Timberwolves got screwed. That's 2 games. You got to travel to freaking Canada and play against Scotty Barnes and those just complete bulldogs they have in Toronto, which is not fun.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got to catch a long flight, probably back to Denver.
It's like 3 hours. It's not bad.
It's a substantial flight, and then you got to play against Jokic in the altitude, and that's not fun.
I guess it's not fun. I don't know why I'm yawning. Excuse me for that, but that's a tough road trip for them. I mean, I think it's safe to say the Warriors should be able to get a spot clinch this week. Right now, the only 2 who have a spot, Phoenix and Memphis have their spot. Miami has their spot in the playoffs as well. Or is it still where if you clinch the division, like they have to have one winner from every division, or does that work anymore?
I don't think so. Here's another little hot. Can I offer another little perspective after looking at the standings? Look, at this point, we're lining them to play Denver round 1, and Denver. There's been so little news. It doesn't sound like we're getting Murray and Porter Jr. back with that much time, if back at all. So it could just be Jokic by himself, which, look, Jokic by himself is still scary because it's Jokic, but if it's one guy by himself, you have to like your odds a little bit more. But here's
Exactly.
we're only a game and a half ahead of Dallas. What if we do a little strategy, fall back to the 4 seed, and if things hold up, which they could.
Oh no! You do not do that.
You play Utah instead. I'm not.
I mean, you'd rather play Utah, but you'd also rather be a higher seed. Because what happens if you win that? Would you rather play Memphis or Phoenix?
We're not going to pass Memphis or Phoenix either way.
So who would you rather play? Who would you rather get a shot to beat?
It depends on Morant's knee. If Morant is back and playing, gets a toss-up. I'm scared. I'm more scared of Morant than Booker or Paul. The duo of them scares me more than Morant, but Morant scares me so much. So I'd say if Morant's knee is in good shape and he's playing, fuck it. Screw it. It's a toss-up. Both teams are going to be both teams are going to be really hard to play. So if we match up so well with Utah, yeah, take it. You're going to be on the road either way. It's just how the season's turned out, and they're both scary good teams. If Morant's out, then they could get bounced. So if Morant is out, maybe we play. Oh God, maybe God forbid the healthy Clippers, according to my hot take, or the Timberwolves. You never know. The Timberwolves are spicy. Maybe the Nuggets. The Nuggets are only 2 games ahead of the play-in tournament. Also, if Jokic is in the play-in tournament, I understand he's been great. I can't give a guy MVP if he's in the play-in tournament. If Steph didn't get it last year for being in the play-in tournament, that's true. That's just me. It's got to be Embiid or Giannis because you guys have the same rule.
100%. Playoffs coming soon.
Yeah, so a little bit of hot takery in that I'm scared of both Suns and Grizzlies equally. I like playing the Jazz the best because I like what we could maybe do with Gobert and stretching him out. And sounds a little sounds a little weird, but I'm fired up for the playoffs, and I think there's still time left. We've played. How many games do we have? 6. We have
6 games left, so we're coming up close, man.
We got Suns, Jazz, tough. Kings, Lakers, money. Spurs have been frisky. Pelicans also a little frisky.
Yeah, it's a tough schedule coming up, but overall, I mean, there's a lot of talk about the playoffs. We're going to talk about that more next week with everything winding down, but lots to be looking forward to. Big week for the Warriors. It's going to be fun to watch. Coming up, segment number 2, move from NBA to college basketball. March Madness is in full swing. Zach and I are back to talk about it. Serious thoughts on North Carolina, a team who he was very high on, now in the Final Four. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Segment 2 on this 9th episode of the Corcoran Cap, talking about March Madness. Usually we talk about Syracuse, but there's not really much to report, and March Madness is honestly a bigger thing. Zach and I both love March Madness, so we're here to talk about that. I'm your host, Sam Corcoran. As I just said, to my right, Zach Kopelman. I keep getting this direction wrong, but Zach, we're entering the Final Four of March Madness. Another fantastic weekend in the tournament. How do you think it went so far?
I'm pretty excited for this weekend coming up. We got some great Final Four teams. As I said, UNC going to make the Final Four. You know what it is. First matchup ever against Duke. Then you got 2 great teams on the other side. You're looking at Villanova and Kansas. So good games this weekend. Entering the Final Four in New Orleans. I believe it's New Orleans. Yeah.
New Orleans.
So
it's going to be a fun Final. Going to be a fun Final Four. And you mentioned UNC. I know I mentioned the Warriors segment as a bit of a teaser that you love UNC, and they made it to the Final Four as you predicted. So let's just talk about them right there. And I think really what stands out to me for this UNC team is all these teams know how to play basketball, obviously, but they won on offense. They move the ball the ball movement is so efficient for them. And I think that's what you see with a lot of these teams. They just move the ball so well. I think UNC does it best. Additionally, their defense has been stellar all tournament long. Leaky Black especially has been locking guys down. And you really saw him. I mean, we saw him in the Syracuse game. When he was on, it was Buddy Boeheim and Cole Swider. Cole Swider went off. Leaky Black was not on him. Buddy Boeheim struggled a little bit when Leaky Black was on him. When he switched, it was the exact opposite. So He's going to be a key part to this Duke game. I know Duke's guards are not very good, but you could see him guarding a guy like AJ Griffin, their sharpshooter, and you need shooting these final 4 games. That's one thing I know on our March Madness preview stream that Austin talked about a lot, is shooting is key, and you're going to see a common thread with these teams shooting and their shooting percentages and all that stuff. UNC is Duke is a 49, shoots about 49% from the field, almost 50%. So it's definitely something to watch out for. Other than that, I mean, I'll let you talk about their defense and their grit, but I think Caleb Love's going to not Caleb Love, Leaky Black, excuse me, is going to play a huge part of this game, as well as Caleb Love, but we'll talk about more on the offensive side.
I've definitely been outspoken in saying that he's probably the best defender in college basketball, the best perimeter defender in college basketball, at least. He definitely is in the ACC, in my opinion.
Easily.
I'm just going to go ahead and say I think UNC's run ends here. As much as I hate Duke, I've grown up hating Duke. I hate Duke right now. Coach K will not lose to this UNC team again, in my opinion. I think it's not going to be an easy game for Duke. Obviously, they've lost to this team before. Hubert Davis is quite the coach. He's going to be a national champion one day. But this is a game that Duke is coming out for vengeance in Coach K's last run. They've lost to this team, so they don't want to lose to this team again, and they know what's coming. Leaky on AJ Griffin, I think, will definitely be a matchup we see a lot this game. Leaky's obviously not going to be a great scorer, and AJ Griffin's a lottery pick at this point. And I think AJ Griffin will not have his best game when he's guarded by Leaky. I think Mark Williams is going to struggle, as he hasn't been doing. He's been having a great tournament run, but he's not going to. He's going to struggle against Baycott. I think Paolo's going to have a pretty solid game against Brady Manick, and that's where you're really going to see UNC's weaknesses. They play team basketball. They play great defense. They're even better on offense. When Brady is up against Paolo, I think there's going to be a little bit of a struggle. And is Caleb Love going to be able to put a lot of scoring on who is it? Probably Trevor Keels and whoever else they have playing guard. They don't have a true point guard, Duke, but I think UNC might just fall a little bit behind this game. It's going to be a close game, but I think they're going to fall a little bit behind and end up losing, and Duke's probably going to go to the championship game, as much as that hurts me to say, because I've been rooting for this UNC team, but I don't know how much I like them against Duke.
Yeah, it's definitely a very tough match, in my opinion. I'll tell you right now, these Duke players will not let Coach K play his final game against UNC and lose. And UNC wants to win this game so badly. I mean, imagine
such
just
a
for
tough rivalry. Exactly, like it's such a tough rivalry. Hubert obviously played for UNC. He hates Duke. Every UNC player, it's drilled in you. You hate Duke. Duke. It's like the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry in football and in every sport, really. I mean, it's a tough rivalry. They hate each other. So as much as these players are not going to want to let Coach K down, you got to remember, Hubert Davis is on his first run. He is a former player. UNC hates Duke as much as Duke hates UNC. So
exactly.
it's going to be a bloodbath, I think. But it's going to be a win for Duke, in my opinion.
Yeah, Duke could definitely win. I think looking at Duke right there, I think one thing that Duke has a bigger advantage for is their size. I mean, Duke, as you said, they don't really have a true point guard in Trevor Keels. And Duke, they know how to. It's interesting when you look at the stats, because UNC is a better rebounding team, but then when you go to Duke, they have a lot more blocks. I think that's a huge part to Mark Williams.
And Duke is a lot of length, so I think they will be able to have a nice game on the boards here. As good as Baycott is at bringing in those rebounds, I think it's gonna be a very tight game, rebounds wise, blocks wise, offense, defense, whatever it may be. It's gonna be, I think, the best game of the whole tournament.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this is gonna be a phenomenal game. I think. Also another thing you could watch out. I think another good matchup. Do you think you're going to see Baycott against Wendell Moore? Do you think that would happen at all? I think that could very much happen. I mean, you have to guard Banchero and Williams first. I would think they would go Manic on Robert Williams, and then not Robert Williams, Mark Williams, excuse me.
I don't know. I don't know. I think Baycott's gonna see a lot of whoever's in the paint. There's gonna be a lot of switching. Baycott's going to take whoever's playing in the blocker spot in the low post. And then I think Manic, they're going to play a little bit more 4 out because, this Duke team is dangerous. They have 4 guys in the starting lineup who are dangerous. Banchero can really stroke it. So I'm not saying we're going to see a zone from UNC. Obviously, they play man-to-man defense, but you might see a little bit of a 4-out look, and Baycott's going to switch on whoever's in the paint. Obviously, Manic will drop into the paint. If Bankero does. It's going to be an interesting game. I think they match up a little weird, but they're two very, very good teams. Two teams very determined to make this championship game for two very different reasons, and it'll be a fun game.
Absolutely. And I think I'm taking Duke in this one too. It's going to be a very fun game, very close game. But at the end of the day, you have a more experienced team under Coach K, and I think that's really going to seal the deal. They know how to pull out games. UNC, I think the Baylor game kind of showed you some flaws where they didn't really know how to pull it out. They caught themselves to the last moment, but they got to make sure they pull it out, and Duke knows how to do that. Looking at what they did in the tournament, they pulled it out against Texas Tech, pulled it out against Arkansas. Michigan State gave them a pretty good challenge. They made sure to pull it out. Whereas UNC, yeah, they won by a lot against St. Peter's. And here's the thing, Marquette, they crushed. They were supposed to beat Marquette. St. Peter's, they were supposed to beat St. Peter's. St. Peter's should not even been in the Elite Eight. They crushed them. UCLA, I think that's a very experienced team that they beat, but they had it going from the get-go. And overall, I just think Duke knows how to close out these games a bit more, which is going to be the key factor in this one for me.
I just want to make a little note on that. Obviously, St. Peter's, give them props. Fantastic run. They beat Purdue. Purdue, I think UNC probably still would have beat, and that would have been the toughest team either one of these teams has played in the entire tournament. I
Definitely.
think playing UNC for North Carolina or playing UCLA for North Carolina, that's probably their toughest challenge. They pulled that one out, obviously. But I think Duke playing Arkansas is a better team than UCLA. They played Texas Tech is a better team than UCLA.
Who I had Arkansas and Texas Tech in that Elite Eight. I had Duke losing to Texas Tech.
I had Arkansas, or I had Texas Tech in my Final Four. I had Arkansas in my Elite Eight. So two very tough teams that I thought they would lose to either way. Duke beat them both. So I think they've had a tougher road here. Props to St. Peter's. Props to whatever other teams UNC beat or killed by whatever. And props to UNC for playing very good games against them and beating Baylor and beating UCLA, which are tougher games. But they need to play a perfect game against Duke.
They do, 100%. And let's move on to the next game. The game that's after this one, I believe. That is between Kansas and Villanova. Or this one's before that. Kansas and Villanova. This is a game that I'm really looking forward to. Villanova is one of the best shooting teams in the country, and that's exactly what you need if you want to win a championship in March Madness. You have Colin Gillespie, and he's been there forever, it seems like. They're shooting well over 80% from the free throw line, which does not happen that often in college basketball. Just mind you that's a historic field goal percentage, free throw percentage right there. Defensively, they are a bit weaker defensively, and Kansas definitely could capitalize on that with Agbaji right there, 18.9 points a game. That is really good for especially a Big 12 school. It's definitely going to be, I definitely think this is going to be a close game. I got to go Villanova in this one. I predicted them originally to get my championship, to win in my championship game. I think they were going to be Kansas. I had this prediction in mind at first, but I definitely think this is going to be more of an offensive powered game than a defensive powered game. And I think you're really just going to see the better offensive team come out on top. In my opinion, that's the Villanova Wildcats.
You asked me a week ago, I would have said Villanova beats Kansas in this matchup. Despite me having in my main bracket, looking back a month ago, I had them losing to Loyola Chicago. Look at where I'm at now. I think Kansas is going to win this game, and I'll tell you why. Jay Wright every year has an incredibly coached team, incredibly poised. They play team basketball. All the things you could say about a team that doesn't really make any sense. This team can shoot. This team moves the basketball on offense, and that's what you need to win a championship, as you said. To win a championship, you also need defense, and this Kansas team can score. Bill Self is coaching an excellent team. Agbaji is one of the best scorers in the nation. The rest of the guys on that team are not bad scorers themselves, and I think they're more efficient on offense, even if they shoot less well as the Villanova team with a bunch of veterans who have been there for years. I think they're a more powerful team on offense. that will put up more than Villanova on Villanova's defense, which isn't particularly the best. I mean, they're a 2 seed. Of course, they're a good defensive team to an extent. I think Kansas will drop around 81 points on this team.
Yeah, exactly. I will say Kansas is definitely the more well-rounded team in my opinion. I just think, for me, I think the Villanova offense has been phenomenal this season. I think that's what goes over the top. I know you need offense and defense to win a championship, but I definitely think that it's going to be a very tough task for Kansas. Looking at the teams that they played, this is hands down their toughest task in this tournament. You had, you had Texas Southern and Creighton, Providence, Miami. I just think this team is a lot. Villanova's had a lot tougher challenges with Ohio State, Michigan, Houston, a very solid Houston team. And they held Houston to 44 points. And their defense this tournament has not been that bad, especially 55 against Michigan, 44 for Houston.
A little bit of a barn burner there with the 50-44 score. I think Kansas will. They've played well defensively. I'll give Villanova props. All tournament, they haven't allowed more than, I guess, 61 points the entire tournament. They played UDEL. They played Ohio State. They let up 61 too. I think this Kansas team is going to score a lot more than every other team they've played. I think they're exponentially better at scoring the basketball. I think Houston's a good team, more so on defense. This Kansas team can score. That's bottom line for me. I'm excited to see this game. I think it's going to be not necessarily as close, but I think it's going to be just as contentious as the UNC game. And I think whoever wins this game is going to have, just like either one of them is having just as good a chance to beat whoever in the final. I have Kansas pulling it out 2-1, or I guess Duke's at 2, huh?
Yeah, Duke's at 2.
A 1-2 final. We'll see.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a close final, whoever plays. We both have Duke. We both have other teams for the different games. I'm going to stick with Villanova, man. I know it's tough to bet against Duke, but I got to stay faithful to my prediction earlier in the tournament when I made this bracket. I had Villanova winning. They're still alive. I'm going to stick to it. I love this Villanova offense, and I think definitely this Villanova offense can Duke's size is definitely, in my opinion, one of their best components. And I think Villanova's offense can definitely match up well to that size with their offensive firepower from beyond the arc, sometimes inside the paint as well. So the Villanova Wildcats, I said it on our March Madness prediction, they're still going to be national champions.
I'm gonna predict something a little different. I'm gonna throw a couple scenarios out there. I think Kansas and Villanova, I think both have a good chance to make the championship, a little bit more so than Duke UNC, even though I'd love UNC to make the final, the championship. If it's Kansas, they're winning no matter who's in the final. That's just my opinion. If it's Villanova, I think they lose to Duke. But I believe Kansas is going to win this tournament. That's just my opinion. I think these are 4 excellent teams in the Final Four. Obviously, they made it to the Final Four. I think 4 very, very good coaches. Hugh Davis, first-year head coach. Give him props. He's gonna be a championship head coach one day. But Bill Self, Jay Wright, Coach K, all have resumes to speak for themselves. So 3 very accomplished guys in this final, and I think it's going to be a kind of a bloodbath and kind of a good way to end this college basketball season.
4 blue blood programs, all have a very good shot to win this national championship. It should be a very fun weekend. Coming up, segment 3 on episode 9, moving from basketball to baseball, talking about the Oakland Athletics. Spring training in full spring right now. The A's made some moves as well. Jake and I are going to break them down to you. You will not want to miss out. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Segment 3 on episode 9 of the Corcoran Cap, here to talk about the Oakland Athletics. I'm your host, Sam Corcoran. Jake, spring training is in full swing right now. We're inching closer to the season. How you feeling about that?
Well, I had to prep a lineup for this episode, and it was a struggle. So not great, but I'm getting ready to start watching my favorite baseball movies. Got my Bull Durham jersey on, so I'm ready.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about the lineup later, but let's talk about 2 additions who we signed that will play an impact in our lineup. Two former A's. One was one was with the A's last year. One was an A's legend. I say A's legend back in the mid 2010s. Stephen Vogt. I believe in Stephen Vogt. Was with the team from 2013 to 2017. Two-time All-Star. Was with Atlanta last year. He is back in Oakland. An interesting signing, to say the least. Obviously, Jake, he played catcher with the A's. But if you look at the A's depth chart, you have Sean Murphy, you have Langeliers, who you just acquired, and even Austin Allen is a good backup catcher too. So Stephen Vogt, I believe right now he's in his late 30s. I think he is 37 right now. So by the end of the year, I mean, he's kind of aging down to that catcher position. I think you're looking for more of a first base signing. Right now, our projected starting first baseman is not even on a major league contract right now. It's Eric Thames. So you could easily see him be the starting first baseman. He can also DH. So, and if you even need a catcher, if there's an emergency situation, you need a catcher, you can put Stephen Vogt in. So overall, I definitely like this signing a lot. He didn't have a good year last year. He's been kind of struggling. I mean, he did play really well in Arizona for the beginning of the year, but once he went to Atlanta, 167 batting average. Not really the best to say. He was kind of just above the Mendoza line in Arizona, but that was an upgrade from I mean, he was all right with them, but yeah, he's been on the decline. You're not really looking for anything that big other than a locker room leader and a depth piece. So I like the signing. It's a good signing for us.
Yeah, I mean, they're both Lowry and Vogt are examples of getting that veteran presence back in the locker room, maybe helping the younger guys out, help that development. We're not expected to be competitive this year, so it's just getting the right kind of guys in to continue. It's almost like having a coach, a player coach kind of thing. And then Vogt catching, I don't necessarily see it. And Austin Allen being on the roster is pretty significant because he does provide that left-handed bat where you could see Vogt kind of step in at catcher. I think he's going to be more a first base DH pinch hitter type role where
exactly
I think you see him get like 300 ABs this season. I don't know if anything more should be expected.
Yeah, I mean, you're not expecting too much. He didn't even come close to 300 ABs last season. I said he was good. I was looking at the wrong stat. I was looking at on-base percentage where it said .307. It's like he did not hit 300 with Arizona, but he hit 212 with Arizona, so just above the Mendoza line. He's kind of been, his career-wise, he's a 244 hitter. Obviously on the decline, he's aging. This could probably be his last year in the major leagues. But, it's a good depth piece. Same with Lowry, too. I know Lowry really struggled last season. I'll have to pull up his stats. But, Jed Lowry, as Jake and I like to say, like, he always just kills it with the A's and no other team. And, I mean, it's a good veteran presence to have, especially with an infield where your second baseman's Tony Kemp. You can have Chad Pinder. I think second base is solid, but shortstop, you have a very old Elvis Andrews, or an aging Elvis Andrews, I should say. He's a lot younger than I actually expected. He's in his early 30s. But still, he's struggling. He's someone on the decline, down year last year. It's a good infield depth piece. If you need someone at DH, you can also do that. Not really your ideal designated hitter, but it's two good signings. I just wish the A's spent more money because these are our only two signings of the offseason. We've spent no money on major league contracts besides Stephen Vogt and Jed Lowry. That's all you can do. You got to do more than that. I'm sorry. I know we always like to rant about John Fisher, but come on, that's really lousy. And I will say, yes, we did get the prospects, but still, you should spend at least some money in free agency.
Yeah, I mean, I think what this says to me is that they have guys and they have traded for, and if we run through all the positions on the roster, you'll see they have guys they want to give ABs to that haven't gotten the opportunity yet, and they want to either make available to potentially gain value like a trade deadline type piece when you're talking about guys like maybe a Pinder or a Murphy, Kemp, or a little bit lower down like Seth Brown, Piscotty, or something like that. Or they're just trying to develop them, give, I don't know, Kristen Pache 500 at-bats this season and just hope that he can find that bat that he couldn't get in Atlanta, because we know he's going to be a glove type outfielder for a long time. He's got the speed. He just needs to develop it. Maybe we bring up Nick Allen after a few weeks of the season. Like we could see some – I always kind of enjoy this part of the A's development because you get to see guys that are new and potentially future superstars that you weren't expecting.
Exactly. And for the record, Jed Lowry, I know you said he had a bad year last year. Statistically, he hit 245, on base percentage of 318, 69 RBIs, very nice. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's Jed Lowry. You're not expecting too much for him. He's going to be a solid depth piece, can start if you need. And you made a good point. That there's going to be new guys coming up. Nick Allen, I think, is projected to come up this year, which would be a very good boost to this team. He's an infielder. He can probably step in to one of those roles. So I think it could work out really well. You also have, Pache is he's going to be a major league player. So you love to see that as well this year. Overall, I mean, the depth's not that great, but you have some solid pieces in there and you do have potential. And speaking of, I know we just talked about some free agents, and unless you have anything else you want to say on that note.
I mean, just like in terms of young guys, I don't know if anyone saw the new A's top 30 prospect list came out, and it was kind of surprising, but Zach Giloff, our second round pick from I think last year, maybe, he's already played some games in AAA, and he's number 3 on our list, and he could be a sneaky late season guy because he played in college, so he's already pretty old, and I know it says what does it say, like 2020?
It says 2024. He's 22 years old right now. That would be a good year, so. That would actually be a very good call up if he can develop well, because third base is probably, if you look at our depth chart, it's hands down our least deep position. Sheldon Noisy is the one guy on there, and he is in my projected lineup, he's last in the lineup. So you have to get that figured out.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about some other free agents that we could sign. And Jake brought up a good point. We were prepping for this podcast yesterday. Other guys we could sign are, I mean, you saw the vote in the Lowry thing. How about just bring some guys back? Just keep what you have. I mean, just get some veteran presence. You know this team is probably going to go nowhere. You're going to want some veteran presence on this team, and mainly on the pitching staff is what we looked at. You brought up Yusmeiro Petit, Mike Fiers, even a guy like Trevor Cahill, Brett Anderson. I think those guys are still playing. I don't really know, but those are two guys who always thrived with Oakland. I think you and I actually talked about this on the pod last week. They thrived in Oakland. Everywhere else, they were just at rock bottom.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to, at some point in the season, I can project out 5 or 6 starters right now, but with injuries and players just getting sent down just because they're not playing that well, we're going to need more guys. And so I would not be at all surprised to see some of these guys come back on minor league deals. And like you saw, I think Trevor Cahill's done this 3 times with the A's. He's kind of the Jed Lowry of the pitching staff. And just get that veteran presence on the mound, get those guys kind of ready, those younger guys ready and comfortable. And the A's do this a lot in their rebuilding stage. We saw it with Jonathan Lucroy at catcher during the last one, and that was big. He talked about his relationship with the pitchers and how that helps the young guys so much. And we had a pretty good pitching staff last year with Bassett, Manaea, Montes, or that 1 year. And so, I mean, I don't think it's out of the question at all for us to sign kind of get a flurry of little minor league deals of guys who finally who were expecting major league deals, but maybe they have to settle and sign with the A's.
Exactly. I mean, it's not the end of the world. And both pitchers, for the record, I know they're kind of entering that twilight era where they're not really going to produce much, but both are free agents. Both are 34 years old, which isn't ideal at this stage of their career. But still, they've been in the majors for so long. Brett Anderson and Trevor Cahill were A's when I really first became a fan. And I'm 18 now. That was a while back. That's well over 10 years back. So I definitely 2 guys you can bring onto this rotation. Fiers obviously has been doing very well with us. I've gotten the sense from other fans that they don't really want him back, just considering he's a very strange guy, to say the least, outside the locker room. And then Yusmeiro Petit as well. Great bullpen presence. We're going to have to bring some bullpen guys in. I know Sergio Romo just left for the Mariners. And you look at the A's 40-man roster right now. It's not really, or the active roster, I should say. Looking at your relief pitchers, you really don't have much. If I pull that up really quickly, you have why can I not find this? Lou Trevino.
Trevino, but Puck.
The only 3 guys I recognize are Lou Trevino, AJ Puck, and Adam Aller, who's the guy we acquired in the Bassett deal.
We've got a couple others. Brent Honeywell, who was he was a big prospect with the Rays. He's still only 26. I would expect him to make the major league
Yes,
roster.
I forgot we signed him too.
I know he was a starter, but I think it'll be like the Jeffries thing last year because I expect Jeffries to step up to the starting rotation.
Yeah.
But where if they look good, then they can kind of earn that starting spot. It's also a little bit easier to come in those pen situations. And then the big guy from the Yankees, Domingo Acevedo. He was with the team a little bit last year. He's like 6'7".
He's 6'7". Him and AJ Puck are both 6'7".
I would expect him to start with the team. Other than that, I would expect maybe one of those lefties like Logue or Sneed we got in the trades that are
Kirby Sneed is currently listed on the depth chart right now, so that would be a guy who you can bring up and use him a little bit.
Grant Holmes, big guy that we got in the Grant Hill trade with not Grant Hill, Rich Hill and Josh Reddick trade with the Dodgers.
Yeah,
we got a lot of guys in that trade. We got Montes, we got Jarrell Cotton, we got
he didn't last too long. I think we had injury stuff, but we got a lot of guys with them.
Big prospect in that, and it's been a while. So
yeah, exactly.
We'll see if we can get anything.
Anyway, exactly. So lots to look forward to the roster. Now Jake and I are going to give some lineup projections, and I think just like the starting 9 guys right now, I think this is obviously excluding Ramon Laureano, who is currently suspended. I don't know what game he's at, but I'm thinking he's probably I think he got suspended in August. So I would assume he's coming back in June, maybe. We'll have to see. But right now, if I had to give a starting lineup, I would go with starting off. I'm going to go with Christian Pache. He's killed it in spring training. He's been a fan favorite. This guy, how people are describing him is he is obsessed with getting better and obsessed with winning. And that is something you love to see in the A's culture. So I'm starting him off right away at the lead-up spot. I think he's going to be a fantastic center fielder. It'll be interesting to see where he and Laureano will fit. Probably one of them moves to left, but I think Pache is a fantastic player. Like him starting. Chad Pinder, number 2. Sean Murphy's going to hit 3. It's not the best 3 hitter you want, but you look at the rest of this lineup, it's not that good. The 4 spot's very interesting. I think Jake and I were kind of debating this I was kind of debating this. It could be Eric Thames, but he's not even on a major league contract right now. Seth Brown is another option. Eric Thames probably has experience hitting there. He's hit for power in the past. Could be Seth Brown. He's a pretty versatile player. You could use him there. Even a guy like Jed Lowry, you could use there. I have Jed Lowry listed in the 5 spot right now. I think he would probably get the nod over Tony Kemp, but I bet you're going to see some Tony Kemp this year. So do not be surprised when that happens. Kemp will be in and out of the lineup. And obviously this is going to change game to game, as it always does. I put Seth Brown in the 6th spot, as I was just talking about. Could be cleanup. I definitely want to have him in the first 6 spots of the lineup where he's going to hit before the 3rd inning. So it works out that way. Rounding up the lineup, Stephen Vogt, Elvis Andrus, and Sheldon Noisy. Sheldon Noisy, I mean, third base, that's not really – it just goes to show the lack of depth at third base. You went from Matt Chapman, your best player by far, to Sheldon Noisy, one of your worst players on the team. No offense to him, but I think we just need some depth at third base. But that's a good lineup that I have. Obviously, this is going to change from game to game. You may see a guy like Langeliers come in the lineup. We'll have to see what happens, but that's what I'm thinking. It will be looking somewhat like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you look, I wrote down all the different positions and the guys that I expect to start. And right now I have 2 guys that are expected to be everyday starters at their position, and that's Murphy. And I mean, that's a catcher. So everyday starter is a bit of an ambiguous term. And then Christian Pache until Laureano comes back. So really it is just, I mean, there's so many guys at first base. I've got Vogt, Brown, Thames. You could all see taking ABs there. Second base, you got Kemp, Lowry, and Kevin Smith, who's the guy we got in the
even Chad Pinder too.
Yeah, I have Pinder at like every position. I have him written down for left, right, third, short, second. I mean, like, he's gonna play the same role, but I expect him to get a lot more ABs. He's a guy who I could see, if he has a good season, he could get like traded in a similar like Ben Zobrist type trade, where obviously Zobrist, when we traded him for Manaea, was a lot more experienced, but like a team looking for someone to just fill in as a utility man at the deadline. Like, they have a few more like roster openings, like a team like the Yankees, where they don't need anything specific, but they need a big bat and someone who can play a bunch of positions.
And that's one key thing. I'll let you get back to it, but just like versatility, this team is set up for figuring out down the line. And if they need a trade partner, if one of these guys goes well, it's going to be easy to find them because it's just guys that need a bat.
Yeah. And then as far as guys who I think are going to be in the lineup every day, regardless of what position they're at, because it's going to, like you said, it's going to switch up a lot. Like all these guys can play multiple positions, and it's just like how our roster is built right now. But yeah, Pache, I think Tony Kemp, whether he's playing second base, maybe a little shortstop, maybe some left field, right field, like he can play a lot of places. You saw him almost be an everyday starter last season. Seth Brown, I definitely expect to finally get his opportunity.
Yes, he will.
And then, Pinder, and then I think Andrus. We just don't have anyone else right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a team lacking a lot of depth, but you don't have depth, but you have versatility, and versatility will do it for some point. I mean, it's a rebuilding team, so I'll take versatility. I think it is what it is. This team's not really going far, to say the least.
And yeah, I had a question. And again, like I don't know about this. That's why I was going to bring it up. But Andrus, so he has a player option next year, I believe, for $15 million. If we cut him, does he still get that money? Because if not, then I would expect him to. There's no way that he ends the season with us.
Yeah, that's a good question.
The A's are not going to pay
clue.
$15 million to anyone, much less Elvis Andrus.
Andrus, you can't pay him $15 million. That's a great question. I would have to look that up, but I would assume you have to give him some of that money, but I don't know how it works. But
yeah. And then one guy, I'm not sure if you said him, but one other guy that we could potentially sign, I think Chris Davis or Cespedes, a guy, just a big bat, guy who's been here before.
If you give me Yoenis Cespedes, I will be beaming for days.
Yeah, no, just like a positive guy both of them are guys who I really like because they wanted to be here. They wanted to sign contracts in Oakland. I know Cespedes' thing was with Bob Melvin, but if we offered him something, I would expect him to come back.
Absolutely. One of my favorite player of all time, Yoenis Cespedes. If we brought him back, you'll get an amazing reaction on the podcast. Well, we went over 15 minutes, but had a great time talking A's. Coming up, we're talking 49ers, the offseason in full swing. Got a lot to talk about. A bit of lack of moves, but maybe we'll start talking about the draft as well. You won't want to miss it. Stay tuned. Welcome back to segment 4 on this 9th episode of the Corcoran Cap. Ending this episode with the 49ers. 49ers, you get it. I'm your host, Sam Corcoran. To my right, Rohit Kannan. And Rohit, the offseason still going a bit slow for the 49ers. We did make a few moves. How you feeling about that? And
I mean, honestly, I was expecting this. I mean, sure, we have the massive elephant in the room that I'm not willing to talk about because everybody's beating it to death. I'm not going to try to beat it to death again. But aside from that, the 49ers have just made moves that I expected them to make. Shore up weaknesses, sign a couple of depth guys back, maybe get a couple of depth guys in free agency, a splash signing here or there. And so far, that's the way the offseason's gone, and I have no objections about it.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I don't have any objections either. And you're going to see throughout this episode, like, the 49ers were going to sign the guys that they were going to sign with Jimmy Garoppolo, with the $25 million that Jimmy has. If they, by the end of this offseason, they will still be having, they'll have $25 million still, because I think what I'm getting a sense of is their whole plan was to have that $25 million barrier in their way and work around that. And now you're at a point, yeah, you could have handled it better, but you're at a point where you can trade Garoppolo after, when a team needs a quarterback, because there's going to be teams that need a quarterback down the line. There's going to be some injuries. There could be some guys that that are just underwhelming. There's going to be some teams that miss in the draft. Then you can trade Garoppolo. And that's the last thing I'm going to say about it. But at this point, I'm not that surprised that they're waiting to trade him. I mean, I was surprised initially, but now it's starting to it's all starting to come together.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. The 49ers had this plan from the beginning, and it's going exactly as they planned.
Exactly. It's just it's going as they planned. They're taking it as our old motto was, brick by brick. That's how they're taking it. But anyways, back to free agency. We had 2 big signings this week. Let's start with the big one who I really like, and I don't think I ever brought it up, but this is a guy who was our leading sack leader in 2020. It's a guy who we got on a cheap deal. He was on a horrific contract in Seattle. They opted out after that first year, and you get him back for 1.5 mil. Carrie Hyder. This is a guy, as I say every year. Some people are like, "Oh, Carrie Hyder is not that good." Every year he's been with Chris Kusarek, he's had a phenomenal season, and I'm thinking it's going to be the same this year. He's a good depth piece, could be starting. I really like this signing a lot, and I think it's going to help us a lot. This is probably the diamond in the rough signing that you were looking for. That I was looking for. You were probably looking for that too, Rohit. And it's a guy who we kind of knew. It's funny. It's not really a diamond in the rough. It's like we knew this. We knew about him, and nobody really talked about bringing him back. But we do bring him back, and I think this is a very smart move for the 49ers. You get a guy like Carrie Hyder instead of pay him for 15 times as less of what a guy like Chandler Jones could have got.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, what's important about it is that this is a guy who knows the system. So this is going to be plug and play. Plus, he's quite literally played here before. So it's not going to be that much of an adjustment. I mean, sure, we've switched defensive coordinators. Robert Saleh is now the head coach of the New York Jets. Our current defensive coordinator is Domingo Ryans. But ultimately, when you actually watch the film of the 2020-2021 Niners defense, ultimately, if you look at the concepts, a lot of them are still the same, especially across the defensive line, which is what Chris Kusarek coaches. And whose tutelage is Carrie Hyder going to be under? Chris Kusarek. It all fits perfectly. I mean, honestly, it's probably one of the most underrated signings of this entire free agency. Assuming Nick Bosa stays healthy, expect a massive year from Carrie Hyder, one that even blows 2020 out the water.
Yeah, 2020 should be a big year, in my opinion, for Carrie Hyder. I definitely am looking forward to I think I'm looking forward to just seeing him play, and I think he's going to get some good reps for this team. He's going to contribute in a division that it got a bit weaker. I think Arizona's a bit weaker now. I think the Rams, they just won the Super Bowl. I'm not going to underestimate them just yet. I know people are I know there's some Niners fans out there that are like, the Niners are better than this team. The Rams just made the Super Bowl. I'm not going to underestimate the Rams. I need to see what's on the field for the 49ers first and foremost. But the Seattle obviously got worse. The Niners, their defensive line, I will say, I think the loss of DJ Jones does hurt a little bit. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I definitely think Carrie Hyder is going to be a fantastic signing for this team. And another fantastic signing on the defensive line, Jordan Willis, bringing him back. I like this a lot. Great depth piece. We got him for a very cheap price for the Jets. He stays with the 49ers. I definitely think it's going to work out for him. Obviously, the hero in the NFC Championship game. Overall, I like this a lot. I think it's a great depth piece to have. Brings back some locker room chemistry right here, some locker room leadership. And I think that's what this team needed on a defensive line that has gotten a lot less experience, I got to say, this offseason. It feels like this is the one offseason where I'm not as confident as our defensive line than I was before, but I think I'm going to be proven wrong towards the end of the year because signings like this are going to help out a lot.
Yeah, plus football is a long sport. It's a long season. I mean, as the season progresses, you expect guys to get into form. Maybe it's not going to be as great weeks 1 through, let's say, 5. But from around week 6 on, you're going to see a massive improvement. And that's kind of just what you expect. So I'm not too worried. But Jordan Willis, what else he brings to the table is not just defensive line depth, but he's a key special teamer. And that's something that 49ers put a massive emphasis on this entire offseason. Special teams. A lot of their free agency signings, special teams, quality special teamers. And with their coaching hirings, again, focusing on special teams. I think this special teams position has just basically went from a massive weakness to probably one of our greatest strengths overnight. And I am both surprised and impressed. Yeah,
me too. It's definitely impressive. The special team, they definitely want the special teams to improve, and that's what they needed. And you got it. Jordan Willis, a hero in a special teams hero. You got guys like George Odom and Oren Burks, I think are there. Yeah, 2 guys right there that work out really well. And this is something we talked about last week, just some special teams prowess. They want to get those special teams guys. And I think this is a perfect segue into our next segment, talking about the draft, because now you get guys in free agency that are going to help out on special teams. Let's talk.
There's one more guy we brought back in free agency, and here's the thing. I'm quoting Thanos on this one. Dread it, run from it. Dante Johnson arrives all the same.
Andre Johnson. I mean, he's back. I didn't really need to talk about that because it was kind of expected. But at the end of the day,
Johnson, outside of Jimmy Ward, he's literally the most experienced 49er on this team.
I know. It's crazy. I do want to bring up a point, though, because before we move into the draft, I want to bring up one point. No one has talked about strong safety yet, and we haven't made any moves there. Jaquaski Tartt's still a free agent. Tyrann Mathieu still a free agent. I don't know what's going on at strong safety. There's other guys who are free agents. I think those are the big two right there. But
yeah,
it's interesting to see that we have not got anyone because Tavon Wilson, I think, left. I could be wrong about that. And Tarvarius Moore is coming off an Achilles injury. Wasn't the starter in the first place. And now you're going to use him. It's definitely interesting to see what the Niners are going to do at strong safety. And that's something I think the Niners should get figured out before the draft.
Yeah, I mean, it honestly wouldn't surprise me if they decide to go strong safety with their second-round pick, or if they try to trade up from 61 to maybe the back end of the first round, package 61 and a couple of our comp thirds, move up into the first round, maybe draft a strong safety there. That wouldn't surprise me. But it is interesting, especially considering the fact that nobody has signed Jaquaski Tartt or Tyrann Mathieu. Either we're missing something or they want too much money, or it's something else entirely that I just don't know or understand.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see what's going on. And if I look at Spot Track right now, looking at the safeties who have not signed so far, there's definitely some notable names. Tyrann Mathieu, Landon Collins, Kareem Jackson, Rodney McLeod, Keanu Neal. I mean, he kind of played linebacker a little bit, or he might have actually re-signed with Dallas. That could be wrong.
Keanu Neal re-signed with Dallas.
Yeah, I don't know why that's not reported. Terrell Edmonds is still available, I believe. There's a ton of guys available. We haven't even signed Marcel Harris yet. That's another guy. Tavon says Tavon Wilson isn't signed at this point. But yeah, there's just a lot of guys that you need to re-sign. Ronnie Harrison of the Cleveland Browns is a 24-year-old safety. That could be a name to watch right there. The Niners have had a pattern this offseason, getting young guys at the positions they need. Keep an eye out for Ronnie Harrison. I think that could be a good fit for this team and a sneaky player.
Yeah, I'm with you all the way there.
Yeah, Bama guy as well, I believe. So you love to see that. But anyways, moving on to the draft. We got about 5 minutes left to talk about all this stuff. If I'm being honest, Rohit, I have not done too much draft research. I've been so locked in on free agency and everything. And I know you haven't too, but let's just looking at our picks. We have a second rounder. We have 2 third rounders. One is a comp pick. I believe we have a fourth rounder. If I pull up the rest of them, I'll have to start off. But day 2 is when we start the draft with 1 second and 2 thirds. What are some positions you're expecting to go that day?
Depending on what happens with the rest of free agency, I'd expect strong safety. But I'd also expect maybe offensive lineman or cornerback. This is a pretty decently deep offensive line class. We might be able to get something solid with day 2 or day 3.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you on that. I think you're going to start off, and another thing about safety, I know we're just talking about that. What if their plan is to have Hufanga start? That could be another option right there.
That would be interesting, but ideally, I'd still like to draft someone to at least have depth behind Hufanga.
Yes, I would too, and I would take a guy.
He's shown flashes. He's shown ability. I am a 100% believer in Talanoa Hufanga, but I'd at least want still someone behind Hufanga just for depth purposes. We don't want one guy playing every single snap. Not at that position.
Exactly. And I definitely think you look at that. I would take a guy definitely probably be a day 2 pick in my opinion. So we have 61, 93, and 105. I definitely think you should get a safety there. O-line, I like the point about that. Mike McGlinchey is entering the last year of his contract. I don't know if the 49ers are going to extend him after that.
Wait, did we pick up his 5th-year option?
We did. And this is 18, 19, 20, 21. So this is his 5th year. That's another interesting thing. Offseason, we've been talking about a Bosa extension. We've been talking about a Debo extension. Nobody's talking about a Mike McGlinchey extension.
I think we've already resigned ourselves to letting him walk. But especially with recently how Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have been talking about Jalen Moore. maybe this year is just another year, just McGlinchey, and then letting Jalen Moore develop, and then handing Jalen Moore the reins to right tackle.
Yeah, I mean, you could have Jalen Moore as a right tackle. It was interesting, though. They've been talking so highly on him, yet in the playoffs, they started Colt McKivitz at right tackle. Or one of the guards. It was, I think it was like, yeah, they started McKivitz there, which was interesting to see. But
maybe
overall,
just familiarity. I don't know.
I mean, it must have been. But overall, maybe Jalen Moore will be ready next year. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with McGlinchey, but I would not mind getting an offensive lineman round 3. You can never go wrong with a wide receiver, too. I know we have a good core. We have Ayuk, Debo, Jawan Jennings. That's a very solid triple threat right there. Also could get another guy on this team. I'm trying to think, we signed Raven McLeod as well. He's more of a returner, but it would definitely be nice to get a guy on this team who can be a true wide receiver. You're not really looking for much. A wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. I'm just going to say it right now. I know everyone's throwing out Christian Watson out there. There's no chance in hell he is falling to 61. That guy is too good for 61.
His combine definitely upped his stock all the way to first rounder.
Oh yeah, no, he is a late first rounder, early second rounder at worst. So I highly doubt he'll fall to 61.
And plus, I don't see a reason why we would trade it for a wide receiver.
Yeah, me neither. I think you stay put.
3.
Exactly, I agree, and I think you stay put right there. But overall, I definitely think, O-line, safety. You also could grab another. You could grab another linebacker too. Aziz Al-Shaair could be on his last year this year. Dre Greenlaw is entering the last year of his deal. Fred Warner, I know you just extended him. You might need another linebacker next to him. Could work out like that. I definitely think you could do that. D-line depth is another big piece of this team. An edge would be very nice. I mean, there's guys all over the board. I think also one would be really nice, a running back. I think a running back would, if you can get a good running back that can fit Shanahan's system so well, that would be amazing. Because I know I say every year,
I'm expecting running back day 3.
You see, here's the thing with that. I've been saying for so many years that Shanahan can work with any running back he wants. And while he can, just imagine what he can do with a running back that fits his system perfectly and is just a good football player. Because here's the thing. You look at all the... It would, because you look at all the running backs who he had. Matt Breida, terrible. Raheem Mostert, I'm expecting a bit of a decline from him. I don't really have much faith in Raheem Mostert. I think a lot of it was a system fit. I could be wrong, but I don't have much faith.
In Mostert's defense, he is going to a very similar system with Mike McDaniel in Miami.
He is. That is fair. And I'm going to wait to see him play. But those are two guys that just struggled elsewhere. Carlos Hyde, I mean, he didn't really fit Shanahan's system. Who's the other guy we had? Why am I forgetting his name? Oh, Jerick McKinnon. Well, he had injuries. Tevin Coleman's the other guy. Tevin Coleman, has played. I haven't heard his name once. So,
yeah,
if we can get a good running back,
he followed Robert Saleh to New York, and he's been used marginally, but a lot of that is kind of just offensive inconsistency. They've changed quarterbacks. They've kind of changed systems. Everybody's kind of moving around. Maybe it's just an inconsistency thing overall.
Exactly. But anyways, draft season's coming up soon. It's going to be very fun. We're entering the month of April in a second. Soon, I should say. And Rohit and I are going to be covering the draft a lot for the 49ers. So you guys will not want to miss out on that. Thank you, as always, so much for tuning in. Episode 9. We're hitting double digits next week. I'm really looking forward to that. Make sure to follow the guys on Twitter. Rohit right there at Rohit Kanan 71. Joel at Joel Pettit 10. Zach at Zcope 3. Thank you all so much for watching. We will be back next week, and I will see you guys then. Peace.
Peace.